Nobody in Atlanta could have predicted the kind of storm that would unfold under the reunion lights. The air inside the studio was thick, suffocating, and tense enough to cut with a knife. The crowd shifted in their seats like they knew something unforgettable was about to happen. The producers leaned forward nervously, gripping clipboards and muttering through headsets, like gamblers about to lose their final hand. And the cast, those familiar faces hardened by years of public battles and private betrayals, sat still, their spines straight but their nerves on fire, each one bracing for impact. The cameras rolled, but it felt less like a reunion and more like a countdown to war. The second Rasheeda finally walked in, 4 hours late, everything changed. Her lateness wasn't fashionably casual or playful shade. It was fury disguised as time. Every minute she'd spent off stage had been devoted to sharpening grudges like knives and rehearsing insults like ammunition. Her chin was held high, her jaw locked so tight it could cut glass, and her eyes glared at the one person she had been waiting to confront. Across the room, Yandy sat quietly, unmoved, and untouched by the theatrics. No smirk. No twitch. No whisper. Just calm composure that screamed louder than chaos itself. Everyone felt it. The most dangerous part of a hurricane is always the silence before it hits. Rasheeda struck first, unleashing words as sharp as broken glass. Her accusations flew in every direction: jealousy, obsession, podcasts, interviews, sneak disses, family shade. She talked fast, her voice strained with desperation, throwing every card she had on the table at once. But desperation has a sound, and it echoed off the walls with a hollow clang. Before she could find rhythm or control the narrative, Yandy leaned forward and delivered a line so precise, so brutal. It froze the entire room in place. Please stop worrying about where my man goes. When your husband had to swab your baby on national TV. The silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't silence that came from peace, it was silence that erupted from shock. Gasps rippled across the stage. Producers cursed under their breath, realizing they had captured something historic. Cast members sat wide-eyed, too stunned to breathe. Fans at home nearly dropped their phones, fumbling to clip the moment before it disappeared. That was it. The DNA drag. The line destined to be etched into reunion history, replayed endlessly for years to come. Everyone in that room remembered the humiliation: Kirk Frost, cotton swab in hand, testing his own child under the glare of reality television. It was a scar no amount of apologies could erase, a memory tattooed onto Atlanta's cultural history. And in one sentence, Yandy ripped it back open, forcing it to bleed in front of millions. Rasheeda tried to laugh it off, her shaky giggle barely disguising the cracks in her armor. She called Yandy dusty, mocked her for not belonging in Atlanta, told her to run back to New York. But the laughter was fragile, breaking apart at the edges like thin glass under pressure. Each insult she threw fell flat, bouncing off the ghost of her own receipts. The hot tub scandal. The carousel of mistresses. The endless apologies replayed on every season like clockwork. Ratings she once bragged about now felt like shackles dragging her deeper into humiliation. And then came the whisper. Calm, cold, and deadly. Yandy leaned in, eyes steady, and uttered 4 words that sliced through the air: "Don't throw stones here." Fans clipped it instantly. TikTok overlays dropped dramatic beats behind the line. Memes crowned Yandy the queen of reunion reads. Even the cast shifted uncomfortably, their nervous glances bouncing between the two women like spectators at a gladiator match. And then came the moment that would ignite the internet, the LHHATL debacle. Desperate to reclaim her footing, Rasheeda yanked an Atlanta cap from the table, slammed it on her head, and declared herself the true queen of Atlanta. But her trembling hands betrayed her. Her cracking voice screamed insecurity louder than pride. The cameras zoomed in, showing sweat forming at her brow, every flicker of panic caught in high definition. Calm as ever, Yandy pulled her own ATL cap from her bag, slid it onto her head with elegance, and whispered with venomous grace, "This is Atlanta." The studio erupted. Gasps. Screams. Laughter that burned like fire. Online, side-by-side edits spread faster than wildfire. One screen showed Rasheeda, trembling and cracking, the other showed Yandy, smooth and steady, crowned by her own silence. Hashtags exploded across timelines, hashtag this is Atlanta, hashtag DNA Queen, hashtag crown cracked. Fans had seen thousands of reads before, but this was different. This wasn't just shade, it was domination, but Rasheeda wasn't done. Her pride wouldn't allow retreat. She lashed out harder, mocking Yandy's marriage, questioning her paperwork, sneering that her man didn't even love her. Every sentence was thrown like a dagger, but each one came back like a boomerang. Because the man she should have dragged, the one who had humiliated her season after season, sat silently a few feet away. Kirk. His silence was the loudest sound in the room. He didn't defend her. He didn't deny the past. He didn't even blink. And that silence mocked her louder than any insult ever could. Then came the kill shot. Yandy, still calm, delivered it with surgical precision. I don't need a piece of paper when I've got respect. And respect is something you'll never know, not while you're raising a legacy of your husband's mistakes. The room broke into chaos. Cast members gasped so loud the mics nearly peaked. Producers froze in place, realizing the line was too powerful to ever cut from editing. Fans at home clipped it into gospel, captions screaming, "Respect ratings." And deep down, everyone knew it was true. Rasheeda's marriage wasn't remembered for love or loyalty, it was remembered for scars replayed endlessly on national television. The hot tub fiasco. The infamous 3 earrings scandal. The sobbing confessionals. All of it stacked like bricks in the wall of humiliation she couldn't escape when Yandy replayed the hot tub clip on her phone. Holding it high like a mirror to reflect Rasheeda's reality, the silence in the room suffocated. Rasheeda's face drained of color, her jaw quivering as the ghosts of her past clawed their way into the present. The cast shifted nervously, uncomfortable in the weight of the moment. Producers prayed for someone to break the tension, but no one dared. Online, edits layered the hot tub clip with clown horns, looping it endlessly like a cruel nursery rhyme. And in that unbearable silence, something inside Rasheeda finally cracked, her fist slammed against the reunion table with such force that microphones screeched. Her voice shattered, shrieking as if years of bottled-up shame had erupted all at once. Then, with the entire set frozen in horror, she bolted from her seat. Her chest heaved like a bull charging into a ring, her eyes wild with rage. Producers screamed, "Cut!" But the cameras didn't stop. They rolled. They captured every second as Rasheeda lunged across the table. The gasps echoed from the crowd. Crew members scrambled into action. Erica Mena shrieked in disbelief. Carly Red leapt up, screaming warnings. Scrappy cursed under his breath, already bracing for the explosion. And then it happened. Rasheeda's hand connected. A slap, sharp and violent, meant to silence composure. A shove that rattled the stage like thunder. The set dissolved into chaos. Chairs scraped across the floor. Lights swayed dangerously. Cast members rushed to pull them apart, voices overlapping in a storm of screams and panic, and yet, in the eye of the storm, there was stillness. Yandy, even under attack, didn't lose her crown of composure. She steadied herself, her eyes unflinching, locked straight into the camera lens as though she knew the world would see this moment. Her lips formed words so lethal they cut deeper than fists ever could. This is what happens when truth cuts deeper than lies. The producers lost control. Security swarmed. Cast members dragged Rasheeda back as she kicked and screamed, her crown shattered into dust before the very people she had once ruled over. Fans at home erupted louder than the set itself, their screams echoing across social media as clips spread instantly. Headlines formed in real time, Rasheeda attacks Yandy on set. Memes declared it wasn't just drama, it was downfall. That night, the reunion stopped being a reunion. It became history. One queen collapsing under the weight of her own scars, another rising higher without lifting a single finger. And a city watching, knowing Atlanta had just changed forever. The second security grabbed Rasheeda, the reunion set shattered into pure chaos. What was supposed to be a stage now looked like a battlefield. Producers screamed into headsets, crew members rushed in panic, and the audience leaned so far forward it was like they couldn't believe they were witnessing history. Rasheeda thrashed against the arms holding her back, her chest heaving, her eyes wild. Her voice cracking as she shouted that she was tired of being mocked. Tired of being clowned, tired of people putting her family on display. But the louder she yelled, the more it became obvious, this wasn't about Yandy anymore. She was screaming at ghosts, ghosts of every humiliation that had been replayed on TV season after season, and across from her sat Yandy, untouched by the storm. She didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She calmly fixed her jacket, adjusted her hair, and leaned back into her chair with the ease of a woman who didn't need to prove her crown, it was already on her head. That composure, that stillness, was more powerful than any swing. Her eyes flicked to the camera, lips curled into a faint smirk, and her silence screamed louder than any meltdown ever could. Fans at home didn't need words to understand it. They saw the difference clear as day, one woman unraveling, the other glowing in control. The cast reacted instantly. Erica Mena shook her head, muttering, "This ain't no reunion. This a meltdown." Carly Red, always messy, leaned into a crew member and whispered just loud enough for mics to pick it up, "Queens don't lunge across tables. Baby." Even Scrappy, usually quick with jokes, sat stiff, arms crossed, his voice low but clear, "She done lost it." And in the corner sat Kirk, his silence heavier than any words. He looked down at the floor like he wanted to disappear, not saying a single word, not stepping in to defend his wife. Fans watching exploded online, furious at his ghost-like detachment. Why wasn't he stopping her? Why wasn't he defending her? Why was he always silent when it mattered most? That silence cut deeper than any insult and, once again, it made Rasheeda look even more alone online. The chaos turned nuclear. The DNA drag had already gone viral, but now the slap, the lunge, the screaming, it was everywhere. Hashtags trended instantly, hashtag Rasheeda snaps, hashtag DNA queen, hashtag this is Atlanta. TikToks replayed the moment in slow motion, adding dramatic soundtracks or clown horns. Instagram edits showed her wild face side by side with Yandy's calm smirk. Twitter threads declared the night a cultural reset. For years, Rasheeda had been pitted as the woman who endured public shame. Now, she wasn't pitted at all. She was mocked, dragged, labeled the villain who lost control while her rival never raised her voice. Then came Yandy's moment of precision. She leaned forward, her voice soft but sharp enough to cut the air. Why do you have all this energy for me, but none for your husband? The room collapsed into silence so heavy it suffocated. Erica Mena gasped, clutching her chest. Carly Red froze, her mouth hanging open. Even Scrappy, hardened by years of reunion drama, muttered, "Damn," shaking his head. And the internet erupted again. That line, "Why no smoke for Kirk?" became legend instantly. Fans had screamed it for years, and now Yandy had said it in front of millions. Memes crowned her the queen of truth. TikTok stitched the line into gospel. Twitter declared it the most iconic reunion clapback in history. And Rasheeda, jaw clenched, lips trembling, sat silent, unable to respond. Because you can't outshout truth. You can only sit there and let it drown you. By the time producers called for another break, the reunion wasn't a reunion anymore. It was a cultural funeral. Online, blogs rushed emergency posts before sunrise. Rasheeda attacks Yandy on set. DNA drag shatters Atlanta reunion. Clips of Yandy calmly whispering, "Truth cuts deeper than lies," looped endlessly, like scripture for a new generation of fans. YouTubers scrambled thumbnails with neon captions. The night Atlanta changed forever. Even blogs outside the love and hip-hop bubble latched onto it, calling it the ultimate metaphor for pride and downfall. Meanwhile, Rasheeda went silent online, and silence on the internet is blood in the water. Every scheduled promo, every boutique post, every fashion ad was flooded with mocking comments. Queens don't beg producers for crowns. Hands for Yandy, silence for Kirk. Your man swabbed you on TV. Even her loyal fans hesitated, too stunned to defend her. Meanwhile, Yandy didn't have to lift a finger. She didn't clap back, didn't address the noise. She posted one picture at home with her kids, captioned, "Peace is the loudest flex." And the internet crowned her all over again, but backstage, the whispers started. Pride wouldn't let Rasheeda accept defeat. She began telling allies she had been set up, that producers egged her on, that editing had always been against her. She hinted that she had receipts of her own dark secrets, private footage, maybe even a flash drive that could expose Yandy's private life. Bloggers whispered, fans speculated. Was this her redemption or just desperation? The storm wasn't done. The air carried the promise of revenge. When the reunion lights finally dimmed, the chaos didn't end, it spilled into the night like a wound that wouldn't close. Rasheeda was escorted out of the building, her face streaked with sweat and fury, her voice hoarse from screaming. Even as producers begged her to calm down, she promised them through gritted teeth, "This ain't over. Y'all think you buried me? Watch me burn this whole set down." Those words weren't just heat-of-the-moment threats, they were a vow. And the moment they left her lips, the energy around her shifted. She wasn't a queen anymore. She was a woman with nothing left to lose. And that's always the most dangerous type of woman. And back inside, Yandy was still seated, still untouched, her aura glowing brighter than the stage lights. Cast members whispered around her like she was a relic of history, something untouchable. Erica Mena shook her head in disbelief, telling anyone who would listen that she had never seen someone win a war without even raising her voice. Carly Red, messy as always, whispered into her phone, feeding blogs within minutes. Yandy ate her alive with silence. The crown is hers now. Even Scrappy, usually neutral, admitted privately to a crew member, "Man, Yandy didn't even fight. She just sat there and destroyed her." The verdict was unanimous. The culture had crowned a new queen, but outside those studio walls, Rasheeda was already working her angles. Her pride wouldn't let the internet write her obituary. She started calling in favors, reaching out to bloggers, planting seeds that the fight wasn't a breakdown, it was a setup. She told them producers had pushed her past the edge, that Yandy had been protected in editing, that the slap was never supposed to happen but was orchestrated for ratings. Some bloggers believed her. Others laughed it off. But then came the whispers that made people pause. Rumors that Rasheeda had a flash drive. A drive filled with footage the producers didn't want aired. A drive that could show Yandy in a different light, vulnerable, maybe even messy. Whether it existed or not, the rumor alone was enough to spark a fire online. Fans debated endlessly, was Rasheeda bluffing, or was she about to drop something that could snatch back her crown? Yandy, of course, didn't flinch. She didn't even acknowledge the whispers. She posted a simple photo at home with her children, captioned, "Peace is the loudest flex." It was enough to silence the speculation for most. To the internet, her calm composure was proof that nothing could shake her. Every brand deal that landed in her lap, every repost from celebrities praising her composure, every fan page dedicated to her reunion performance, it all cemented her as untouchable. She didn't need to clap back. The silence spoke for her. Still, the whispers spread. Bloggers swore they heard Rasheeda was threatening lawsuits against VH1, claiming she was exploited for ratings and humiliated for storylines. Others said she was reaching out to rival networks, plotting her next move in secret. Screenshots began to circulate of messages allegedly sent from her camp, teasing the existence of unseen footage that could flip the narrative. The internet buzzed with anticipation. Would Rasheeda really strike back? Or was this just another desperate attempt to cling to relevance? Meanwhile, Kirk became the internet's favorite target. Memes labeled him the silent assassin, the man who destroyed his wife's legacy without saying a single word. Old clips resurfaced, him swabbing his child, his confessions, his infamous 3 earring scandal. The timeline was merciless. Fans weren't blaming Yandy for Rasheeda's downfall. They were blaming Kirk for years of humiliation that finally broke her. And the cruelest part? He didn't defend her even now. Not on set. Not online. Not anywhere. His silence became the final nail in her coffin. By the end of the week, the reunion wasn't just an episode, it was folklore. Fans created timelines of every humiliation Rasheeda had endured, stitching them together like evidence in a trial. The phrase, "no smoke for Kirk," became a cultural slogan, plastered across memes, captions, and even t-shirts. Podcasts joked through entire episodes, laughing at her meltdown. YouTubers edited her slap in loops with dramatic sound effects. And still, Rasheeda stayed quiet publicly, plotting privately. One leak claimed she had reached out to production lawyers, demanding edits be cut from the final airing. Another whispered she was preparing to sit down with a messy blogger to finally tell her side. And the scariest rumor of all? That the flash drive was real. That it contained off-camera moments of Yandy, footage that showed her breaking down, vulnerable, maybe even saying things that could unravel her queenly image. No one could confirm it, but fans whispered late into the night. What if Rasheeda wasn't bluffing? What if the war wasn't over? But then Yandy struck again, not with words, not with shade, but with silence. She posted a video of her kids playing in the backyard. Captioned, "The crown is peace." And the comments erupted with love, flooding her feed with crown emojis and declarations that no footage, no rumor, no drive could erase what the world had already seen. For now, the crown was hers, and yet, the story refused to end. Because just before she left the reunion set for good, Rasheeda had turned back toward the cameras, her voice cracked but steady, and delivered one final line, "This ain't finished. I'll burn it all down before I let y'all bury me." That wasn't just rage, it was a warning. A promise that another storm was forming on the horizon. A storm darker, sharper, and hungrier. A storm that wouldn't just be about DNA drags or ATL hats, but about survival, reputation, and revenge. And as Atlanta buzzed with the fallout, one truth stood carved into history: that night belonged to Yandy. She had raised no fists, thrown no shade, screamed no insults, yet she walked away with the crown the culture had placed firmly on her head. Rasheeda had swung, screamed, and shattered, only to find herself stripped of everything. And the internet, merciless and loud, had already decided. One woman rose through silence. The other collapsed under scars. And the war, no matter how many flash drives or whispered threats followed, would be remembered forever as the night silence screamed louder than violence.